Scott Petrak was on Middays yesterday. He says he disagrees with Andrew Berry in the sense of urgency about wide receivers. Hit it.
When it comes to a significant move, the only one I could see possible is receiver. And I don't get a sense from Andrew Berry that he feels it's necessary, that he feels a sense of urgency to go add to that room. I would disagree with him. When I mentioned Fannin and Sampson, I think they consider that part of the receiver room. Okay, how are you going to get the passing attack better? Well, we're going to rely on our tight ends more. We're going to rely on our running backs more. But when you just go the wideout position, I feel they're short. And if there's a big move to be made, big in quotation marks, I think it would have to come at the wideout spot.
Scott's right, but I also think Andrew would know that. I think Andrew's putting makeup on the hog is what he's doing. And I might have to have a come to Jesus moment here in a moment when we play some audio here from Deontay Johnson, of all people. But when it comes to the wide receiver room, they went with Harold Fannin Jr. this last year. I think that when you get guys like who are tight, when you get tight ends and you're focusing on tight ends, yeah, there's guys like George Kittle, but I think a lot of people would imagine that Brock Purdy does have his limitations.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a lot of tight ends there, they become safety valves for quarterbacks with limitations. There are guys that change that, certainly. But for the most part, that's what they are. And I think that Andrew Berry knows that you can't fix everything in one moment. You can't fix everything with one trade. Yeah, you had one of the better wide receiver rooms in the NFL at one point. Remember, those were 2,000-yard wide receivers in that room at one point. It's going to take probably till 2026 or 2027 to actually address that room. Because right now you have Jerry Jeudy, nice. You have Cedric Tillman, okay. And then everybody else is a whatever to the point of Deontay Johnson. People are dusting that name off.
Yeah.
And I don't think, Danny, that you can address it now. And I think that Andrew's made some bad decisions. Andrew's not stupid. He's just made some bad decisions. It would be real stupid to say that, no, wide receivers don't matter. Wide receivers do matter. But he knows that he can't do all that in 1 year. So what he's going to do, he's going to try to help out all these quarterbacks. You have an old quarterback. You have a quarterback that is off the scrap heap now. And you have two rookies. So you're going to help out the running back room because you want to what? You want to be able to hand the ball off and not turn the ball over as best you can. You're going to help out the offensive line by bringing back Joel Bitonio because Zach Zinter isn't ready yet. You're going to hope that DeJuan Jones, and he's taking himself seriously, can play that left tackle position, which I think he can. We'll ask Lance about that coming up at 8:22 this morning. You're going to try to do your best to protect those quarterbacks, especially one guy who's very well known for holding on to the ball too long when he gets his shot to play. And then you're going to bring in another tight end, and you're going to invest on the tight end because you're going to hope that David Njoku is going to be open for him. He should be. You're going to hope that Harold Fannin Jr. can find himself open for him. There's the possibility of that. Yeah, out of the woods, but obviously there's certainly a lot of ceiling there that you could work with, a lot of potential that you could work with. I don't think they're really addressing wide receiver and in earnest until 2027.
I don't know if it'll be that long. I do think that there's a world where it could be next offseason, but I think that we have to talk about this team for what it is.
If they're addressing it that next, I'm sorry to cut you off, but if they're addressing it next offseason, Danny, then I think that they found their quarterback this year. If they have not found their quarterback this year, then they're using those two picks to get their quarterback next year. That means that big time wide receiver, because Jerry will just be another year older. No offense to him, he's still a young guy. But the next guy you bring in, I don't think that that's materialized until 2027.
But I do think there are other ways to address it as opposed to just making sure you get somebody in the draft too, right? Like I think that you can go out in free agency and how have we seen Andrew Berry be successful in finding wide receivers? It's been in the trade market with Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy. Like he's not drafted wide receiver very well. I would say that's one of the areas where he's made some bad decisions throughout his tenure as Browns general manager. But I look at this and we have to talk about the Browns for what they are. They're not a team that I think we should be expecting to be all that good. And I do think as you talk about the development of young quarterbacks, which I think part of this year is going to be about, wide receiver matters more to me when you are a competitive team, when you are a team that is competing to win your division, to go to the playoffs, to win a Super Bowl. The Browns are not going to be doing that this year. What matters to young quarterbacks in development is being able to run the football, not being a one-dimensional team, being able to have a short to intermediate passing game, which to what you brought up, the tight ends matter, running backs matter in that aspect of things. Having a good offensive line matters. It's not that wide receivers don't matter, because that is just fundamentally not true. They do matter. They matter a lot to having an explosive offense. We're not expecting the Browns to have an explosive offense. There's not a formula for them this year to be a super explosive offensive team. What they have at wide receiver is fine for right now. It's not fine to win them a Super Bowl, but the rest of this roster is not ready for that either.
Well, it brings up a significant point. Here's Deontay Johnson on the Sports and Suits podcast. This was a couple of weeks ago on who he thinks the Browns are going to roll with at quarterback.
I think they're going to roll with Kenny for right now. I've been seeing Kenny going like right now with the ones, and then Joe would come in. I think they're probably going to roll with him just like to see, like just coming off the season he was with Philly and having a Super Bowl. So I think they're going to stick with him through preseason, and then, they can live with what Joe brings to the table.
Let's call it what it is. The most exciting quarterback on this roster is Shedeur Sanders.
Yes, without question.
The most practical quarterback on this roster would seem to be Joe Flacco. The second most practical would be Kenny Pickett. Now, where Dylan Gabriel fits into there, I will discuss it with Lance coming up at 8:22. You mentioned the T word on the phone with me.
I did.
Is this season a tank without admitting it? Do I have to admit that this season is a tank? Because the moves that they've made this offseason, that's not tanking.
No.
Giving Myles Garrett a whole bunch more money and making sure that he's a Brown for the rest of his career and bringing back Joel Bitonio, being encouraging of Joel Bitonio coming back. Not trading away some of the other names, which, yes, again, is easier said than done with dead cap space and everything like that. But again, if you were to be moving on from you-know-who, you don't care about dead cap anymore. You're firmly tanking for everybody to know. Do I have to admit that this year is about the next year and the year after that?
I think so. I
don't think that they're willing to admit. That's why I'm not.
It's much easier for us to admit it because we're not in the room. We're not in that locker room. We're not Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
We're not the guys employed by that franchise in that capacity. We don't have to talk to the players about what the game plan is this week and how, when I say tanking, I don't say they're going out there the way that Hugh Jackson and Sashi Brown did, where they're going to go 1-31 in the next 32 games.
I don't think Hugh lost on purpose.
No, I just think he was a bad coach.
Yeah, I think he made some desperate decisions to try to win, and I think it hurt him.
I don't think the roster is at that point. But I also am smart enough to know the roster's not in a spot where they're going to be competitive this year. They're not going to be competing to win the AFC North. They're not going to be competing to make the playoffs in the AFC. It's a really, really tough conference. It's a really, really tough division. They've got a lot of work to do in order to put themselves in a competitive environment.
What's the end game? Like, I think that's what's caused. I don't think that there's any lack of excitement for the season to come, because I think you have a rookie quarterback that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on and they expect him to play at some point. I think you have a veteran quarterback that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on and they expect him to play at some point. I think you're going to go into the season with 4 QBs. I think that there's still going to be excitement going into this season, but I think it's frustrating for the general fan where they don't know what the team stands for right now. If you were getting ready to tank it out, I think a lot of people go, fine, you know what? This Sean Watson stuff, it ended up being a bust. It's time to set the restaurant on fire and let's get going in another direction. They're not doing that. And when you have a lack of clarity of what the goals officially are, it's going to create a lot of frustration with your fan base on what you should actually do. That's why the whole rookie quarterback thing, which is a thing I want to reset with you coming up later on, that's why that's such a big fight right now, Danny.
The exciting thing about this team this year, what fans should be excited for, is that they might have their franchise quarterback on the roster, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, or you find out this year that they don't, and then you're excited about who they could draft next April. That is what this is about. I hate to say it's not about wins and losses, because we live in a society where results matter, and they matter more in the National Football League than anywhere else.
Yes.
But the reality of the situation is the only result that matters for the Browns this year is figuring out what you have at the most important position in sports.
The reason, and you would be a tanking team if that were the reason, if that were the case. Under the rules of the law, that would be it. But I don't think that they're that way because they won't admit it. They will not come out and admit it, because the decisions that they've made are not decisions of what a tanking team would do. Their history clearly in this last offseason would show you this is not a team that intends on losing. This is not a front office that intends on losing games. The team's never intending on losing games, but this is not a front office. When you make those decisions, that is not a front office that's intending on losing games. They've done that before, and I've denied myself in the past before that. This isn't that case. So they will either naturally show what they are very, very soon in this season, or we are going to be going on some type of journey that will probably approach the middle. Which would be a bad spot to be. Maybe 7 wins.
Which would not be a great spot to be. But let me ask you this, what moves have they made that aren't about the future too. Because Myles Garrett, bringing him back about this year, but it's about more than just this year. Like Myles Garrett's not going to be bad next year.
No,
he's not going to suddenly just not be good when the Browns are ready to be
as good as you think he's going to be close as what he is right now at 34 years old?
No,
that's when that ends.
2 years from now, yes.
Wait, he's going to start to fall off at 2 years?
No, I'm going to say he's going to be really good. Not this year, yes, but the year after this too. Like it's that contract extension was not just about this season.
For that to bear fruit, meaning they are playing in high-level football games with Myles Garrett, he has to keep up this pace for another 3 seasons, including this one. Yes. For that to start to bear fruit, as of right now, it may change if one of these rookies hits it out of the park. We don't know that yet. But until they do it, like that's still just you're paying a lot of money for a guy to be on your football team because he's what sells tickets.
Yes.
And that's what Myles Garrett is right now. That's still not a move for your future, in my estimation.
Is Kenny still wearing gloves?
You know it. He's not going to take them off.
Are his hands that small?
Yeah. They're not that big. He wears gloves every practice.
Does he rip the ball, though? I mean,
he can spin it.
He does throw a pretty good ball. That's Deontay Johnson talking about Kenny Pickett on the Sports and Suits podcast.
And his hands are small.
Listen, guys, what is the ant supposed to go after Deontay Johnson too? I don't know how you get any work done during the day when you're going after all these people who are telling the truth about the size of the hands. I haven't made jokes. When's the last time I made jokes? When's the last time I made jokes? 2 years? It hasn't been worth making jokes about.
Size? Yeah.
It's been 2 seasons since I made jokes about hand sizes and whatnot.
You didn't make jokes to Pony in between then about his love affair with it?
Not that I remember. But not about like hand size.
He's shown himself as else.
I said you backed the wrong Pony. Pony is what I basically said to him. Like, hey, we all get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do like a heel turn on him, basically the way Pony did. I mean, Pony basically hit him with a chair behind his back, and then that was the end of it.
The new Montana to Rice.
Yes, that's what he was calling it. That's the Pony Express. So is this season, when you hear about Deontay Johnson talking about Kenny Pickett's hand size, where I don't know, I got people saying he's going to start week 1, including Deontay Johnson. Jason Lloyd thinks he's going to start week 1. I got Mike Florio saying that he's going to get traded by the time that the season starts over here. I go, what are we doing as a franchise right now? So that would be in the conversation of, well, they're tanking. That's what they're doing.
That is where they're at as a franchise.
But when you sign Myles Garrett to such a huge extension, like again, Myles has to be, he's 28 right now. Is that how old Myles is? So Myles has to be, he might be a little older. He has to be sensational for any bearing fruit, meaning going to the playoffs. He has to keep up this pace this year and another 2 years for them to have a chance.
29.
He's 29 years old. So you're putting him
at 30 this year.
I'm putting him at 32 going on 33 years old. That he would have to keep up this pace for this contract to be about about their future goodness as a football team.
Yes, this year and 2 years after that.
Because as of right now, don't shoot the messenger at 720, but as of right now, like you're taking a quarterback with these 2 first-round picks next year.
You have to be.
But I'm saying until further notice.
Yes.
But I also don't think that because of what they've done, like you're openly trying to help out your younger guys. You're openly trying to help out your veteran guys because those guys are going to help out veterans too. You've kept some of these guys in your secondary that people have been wanting to wave goodbye to for a very long time. Greg Newsome, and people have been trying to trade him for 2 seasons. There's been everybody not named Denzel Ward has been brought up in trade conversations, and then there's people wondering about Denzel Ward's future. So everything that you've done constitutes a team that's trying to win, that is trying to be competitive now. Everything that people think you're going to do is at best in the middle, at best.
Yeah, because that's what this roster says, and that's what this quarterback situation says. It's all going to come back to that with me. Like having Myles Garrett is going to make them a better football team than if they were going to try and just reinvent the process the way that they tried to do in 2017. Myles Garrett prevents that because he's that good. And I do think that this defense will be fine. Like they're not going to be some terrible football team, but it's hard for me to see them with this schedule, especially with how the season starts off. It's hard for me to see them having the facade of being competitive or being in the hunt when they put that graphic up on CBS in week 14. That's not going to happen.
You go back to the 2017 season real quick, Danny. I mean, you look at what these guys are. Now, I have the benefit of hindsight.
Right.
But your starting defense, again, you had Emmanuel Agba, who's a good player, but he's around he's around Danny Shelton. Okay, he's around a rookie Myles Garrett.
Who was hurt.
Carl Nassib, he was hurt that year. You have Carl Nassib in there, which was an okay player, handful of years. Jason McCourty was already at the end of his career. Jabril Peppers never materialized into the type of player they really wanted him to be. You have Jamar Taylor here. You got a lot of guys that are just there for
just a bunch of guys.
They're there for a specific reason, is where you have a lot of these guys at. You look at their depth chart now, I don't think that these are guys that are there for a specific quote-unquote reason, which is to get you to the 2026 draft. And I think that if you're able to control the football, which is why they went on and got 2 running backs to add to this room, which is why that they're going to go back to the Kevin Stefanski offense, because that's going to be based on ball control and not turning it over and putting your defense in a bad spot. I think it's a tough start of the schedule, but you're going to have some games that you end up winning because the other teams are going to beat themselves.
You might have games like that,
not
but
a tank.
I don't think it's the tank in the sense that they're trying to lose football games this year. But I do think it's a tank in the sense that I don't see them winning a lot of football games this year. They're not going to lose games because they didn't try and win them. They're going to lose games because they're going to play a bunch of teams that are better than them. That's what's going to happen. They play in the most difficult division in football. They play in the far more difficult conference in today's NFL in the AFC. They're behind the 8 ball in terms of roster construction because of what they have going on offensively. Defensively, they're a fine football team, but in order to succeed defensively, like have your defense carry you, you need to have an elite, historically good defense or have insane turnover luck, which I suppose we cannot rule that sort of thing out. They could get insane turnover luck.
It's been so bad against you for the last 2 years. You got to think it's going to go for you this year.
Like maybe that is the thing. But other than that, you have to be essentially the 85 Bears on defense to carry a team to the playoffs defensively.
I don't think they're going to the playoffs.
No, you have to be great defensively in order to carry that sort of thing when you don't have an offense that is, I don't want to say it's incompetent because that's probably a little bit unfair, but you don't have an offense that you're not going to be able to go out there and score 30 points in a game to win it.
Exactly. They're not going to be explosive. Frank in Cleveland, you're next up on the Fan. Hello.
Good morning, fellas.
Hi, Frank.
Hey. I don't know what. It's definitely a tank. We're not gonna say it, and we know they're not gonna say it, but it's definitely a tank, man. This shit, and with Shedeur, man, I don't want him to start. I definitely don't, because the receivers we have probably gonna make him look bad. Then we got a whole nother conversation that he don't look good, and ain't nobody gonna blame it on the receivers. It's just, man, we really are becoming the Cleveland Clowns, man.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Because we don't have great wide receivers, we're the Clowns?
I mean, man,
there's plenty of other reasons why we could be clowns, but I don't think it's just because of the wide receivers here, Frank.
Everything we do make us look like the Cleveland Clowns, man. I still love us. I'm not nowhere near against us, man. We make the offers this every year, man. We going through something, man.
So wait, do you like Shedeur? Do you like Shedeur or do you not like Shedeur?
I love Shedeur.
Then why was that a silly decision? You have to throw that into silly decisions.
If they start him, Ken, they gonna look like buttholes, and they don't want to look like buttholes. So
they ain't gonna start him. They are not gonna start him week 1. You know that.
Hey, man. Hey, and what's so crazy is Stefanski loves to make bum quarterbacks look good, and he's probably gonna make Kenny Pickett look good. And I'm scared of that.
Well,
I don't like.
If you are thinking that this year's a tank, then you should be terribly afraid of Kevin Stefanski with the statement you just said.
And if he come out there with that glove, is he still throwing with that glove on?
Yeah, he's going to throw with the gloves on.
Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that Philly highlight when he tried to throw the ball and fell on his face?
Yeah, I saw that. We all saw the Philly highlight, Frank. But what you're saying, what you're saying. What you're saying is what you got to be most afraid of, Frank. And thank you very much for the call. I got to tell you this. If you think that this year's a tank to get a quarterback next year, then you got to be openly rooting against Kevin Stefanski getting anything done with that offense. Because if you think that he's making bad quarterbacks look better, that means you're going to be a middle-of-the-road football team, and you're going to start to trick people. If he's able to protect Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders or Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, and make them look better, then one, okay, you got a good football coach in your hands, which that's been up for debate for a while with a lot of folks, and I'm willing to hear both sides on that one. The second thing is that, no, you're going to have questions about whether or not we should just invest in Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, because I guarantee we're going to have some of the same questions with this year's class of rookies going to be coming out in 2026 that we've had in 2025. It'll be a deeper class, but we're going to have a lot of those same questions.